call to order the Tuesday, November 19th, 2019 meeting of the Iredell County Board of Commissioners. At this time, I would ask that everyone please bow your head in a moment of silent prayer. If you'll please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Jones, are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Yes, sir, Chairman Mallory. We have one adjustment, which is the removal of economic development from closed session.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Norman. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. We're going to roll into a special recognition that we have this evening of our Department of Social Services, who received an award of excellence and innovation at the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners meeting. And here to tee that up is Mr. Matt Bigelow. Welcome, Mr. Bigelow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Bigelow. I'm the Program Development Manager with the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. Our association supports the well-being of all 100 counties in North Carolina through advocacy efforts, education, and member services programs. And we work together with all of the counties for the betterment of North Carolina. I want to thank the Board of Commissioners and the clerk, Amy Anderson, for adding us to the agenda tonight. And the reason we're here, like you said, is because of the great work that the staff in Iredell County has done over the past couple of years. And in partnership with the local government federal credit union, our association recognizes 10 county projects every year that stand out for their innovative solutions to county issues. And joining me tonight is Leanna Lott with the credit union to say just a few words about those awards.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Leanna Lott, and I'm a Senior Membership Development Officer with Local Government Federal Credit Union, and thank you for letting me be here tonight and to be a part of this award presentation. We are so honored that the Local Government Federal Credit Union has been given the opportunity to sponsor the Excellence and Innovation Awards for the past several years. Innovation Award winners are determined by a group of county leaders, department heads, and staff who score the programs based on their cost savings and improvement to services offered to county residents. At the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners annual conference in August, Local Government Federal Credit Union hosted a luncheon highlighting the award winners, presenting trophies and prize money to the winning staff members, and sharing each program's innovative ideas with all 100 counties. Our CEO, Maurice Smith, spoke at the luncheon this year, and I want to echo his appreciation for the partnership that we have with the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners and all the counties here in North Carolina. So on behalf of the staff, our volunteer board of directors, and the over 350,000+ members across the state of Local Government Federal Credit Union, I want to congratulate the Iredell County Department of Social Services and all those that were involved in winning this award.
Thanks, Leanna. So as I alluded to, and as we've said a few times already, Iredell County is one of our 10 Excellence and Innovation Award winners in 2019. And that winning program comes from the Social Services Department. You all may know that Medicaid-related applications have been on the rise in a lot of the counties in our state. And so the folks in social services here in Iredell County have created training labs and programs to help them manage that caseload. It's significantly reduced the time that they've had to invest in processing those, and it's also helped their new hires get up to speed quickly so they can help take on some of those cases. So without any further comment here, I wanted to say congratulations to Iredell County and to the Board of Commissioners and the staff one more time, and invite the staff up here to accept their trophy.
Well, let me just say we very much appreciate the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners for putting together the opportunities to recognize best practices throughout the state that all the counties can benefit from, sharing of the innovative and creative ways of doing business in an ever-changing environment. We appreciate the Local Government Federal Credit Union for sponsoring these awards because, of course, a good bit of your business is from the people that work hard throughout the state and local governments as well as state government, and they help to keep taxpayer dollars in taxpayers' pockets by being innovative and creative. And sometimes that's hard to do. You're swimming upstream. And it's been my privilege to be able to be seated and work with the board for the Iredell County Department of Social Services. So on a monthly basis, the ladies that we're going to call up frequently cycle through to share their accomplishments and the challenges and opportunities they have on a monthly basis. But I can tell you that I don't know anybody that works harder to be able to meet the requirements and, more importantly, not just meet the metrics, but to meet the needs of our citizens who are in need or have specific areas that the Department of Social Services can assist them. So with that, if Heather Houston and Terry Evans and Donna Rufty, is Yvette here? I didn't see her. I don't see Yvette. Right, Yvette Smith is the Director of Social Services, and of course she helps set the tone for the whole organization. But these gals are the ones that make it happen day to day. So if you all could come up front and bring the award up this way.
Yeah, come on in. Come on in. That's the hot seat.
Come around this way.
How are y'all? Hey, Matt.
If we get the commissioner.
This would be the picture suitable for framing, right?
Good managers took 6 copies.
Thank you. Hey, Matt.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Mr. Chairman, I just want to say I was there at the convention on behalf of the board, and these ladies did a great job explaining this program to other counties, and seemed to be a lot of interest in other counties trying to implement a program similar to this. But the thing that I was proud of on behalf of the county was all the people complimented the reputation from Iredell County DSS and the work ethic that our people put in. So I wanted to tell these ladies again, they did a great job, great work ethic, and you represented the county well. So I wanted to applaud you on that. Congratulations.
We'll all applaud you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just make a note here. You know, a lot of times people say government ought to be run more like a business, okay? Or well, we need people who will operate government like a business. just bring three things that businesses deal with and how it relates here. One of them, first, is compliance. Businesses place a high degree of emphasis and priority to be compliant with the law. What does the law state that businesses can do and can't do? And if you're not compliant, there's some significant ramifications. Our Department of Social Services, everything that they do and don't do is dictated by the law. So to be compliant and to meet the letter of the law is a huge part of what they do, and clearly they've done that well. The next thing is operational integrity. Doing the operational integrity, whether you're in a factory or filling out, selling an insurance policy, is to do it right every time. Whatever you're supposed to be doing, whether it's loading a truck, delivering packages to UPS, but to do the same thing right over and over and over again. And the last part of that is to innovate, the process of continuous improvement. I think a lot of times government entities get shortchanged. They assume that we're overly focused on compliance and operational integrity, that there really isn't that component of continuous improvement and innovation. And I'm so glad that our Department of Social Services did win this award, because I think it shows not only the effort that department has taken, but we're all quite aware of that same effort that's undertaken in many of our other departments as well. So thank you for having the degree of success that allows not only you to be recognized for what you've done, but also bring to light that this is what we do. Iredell County, believe it or not, is a well-run county. It's well-managed, it's well-led at the department level, and this is what happens when you have that kind of environment. The last thing I would like to say, and then I'll shut up and we'll move to the next one, is there's a huge misconception about what our Department of Social Services does. So many people think that they just have a big printing press and they hand out welfare checks and food stamps. It is so much more than that. Everything from child protective services to helping people navigate their way through some of the social safety net programs that really are people are very dependent upon them and do need them when they've hit a rough spot in their life. Whenever you think of child protective services, just remember this: every time that you read in the newspaper that they went and raided some house, that they were having a meth lab, if there were children in that house, not only was the sheriff's department there, but DSS was there. Somebody was there that you get arrested for running a meth lab, you can be out on bond, and then you have to worry about the trial. If children were involved, parents post bail, the problem isn't over. And that's just one small slice of what our DSS does. So they do great work. I'm glad you were recognized, and thanks for letting me take this opportunity to share with the public just a little bit about what the professionals in our DSS, in our Department of Social Services, the good job that they're doing. Thank you very much.
And also I wanted to thank the credit union for your excellent awards and recognizing these innovations from all these various counties, because that motivates those government functions to run efficiently and to protect taxpayer dollars. And your investment in that assures that these people are being rewarded for those efforts. So thank you for your investment from the credit union.
Okay, well, thank you again. You can beat feet if you want.
You'll miss some riveting stuff.
Okay. Yes. And speaking of riveting, we next have an appointment before the board with Deborah Cheek, our Chief Financial Officer, and also a presentation by Martin Starnes and Associates concerning our 2019 audited financial statements.
Thank you. I'd just like to take a quick moment to thank county staff and especially finance staff for all their work in completing the audit this year. We had a successful audit, and I'm excited for Ms. Cassie Wilson to tell you how we ended up the year. For each of you, you have a copy of the audit, and right inside the front cover is also a copy of this presentation if you'd like to follow along. And I'll turn this over to Cassie. Thank you.
Thank you for having me again this year.
Good to see you.
I will be brief and go through some highlights from this year's audit. We did issue, again, an unmodified opinion, so that is a clean opinion, the highest quality opinion that we can give. We had an implementation of GASB 88 this year. What you'll notice as you're going through your financial statements this year is there were additional language changes and disclosures related to debt. The purpose of this GASB standard was not to change any amounts or anything, but just to provide additional documentation about any defaults or what the secured property was for a variety of debt to classify different debt pieces within the financial statement. So you'll see a little bit of a language change in there. It may have added a page or two, but that's what GASB does. So other than that, you won't see any number changes, no restatement or anything related to this standard. And we did have our compliance testing, our state single and federal single audit. And we had 5 programs that we tested this year. That was a slight decrease in the number that we had to test in the prior year, but it fluctuates from year to year. I would like to thank, on behalf of our firm and my team that worked on the audit, I will echo the note that you have an amazing Department of Social Services. They are always on the ball. I can email them. Even Miss Donna back there, I can email her late at night, and I'll be able to have a response that night or before I even get into the office the next morning. So they are amazing, stay on top of things, and they do such a tremendous amount of work for the county. And I really appreciate everything that they do to make my job easier completing the audit. And along with them is your finance staff, not just your other department heads, but I work primarily with your finance department, and they are amazing. They too are always on top of things. I get emails throughout the year if there's any questions about anything. We're in communication with each other all the time. So it's not just a once a year or twice a year time that we speak with each other. This is a year-round process for us and for them. And looking at the numbers, your total fund balance for the general fund had an increase this year. We've been on the upward trend at this point. So you had an increase of $13,942,485, and that's in the general fund specifically. So it's always a positive reflection of the county to see that growth. Specifically looking at what the LGC compares and what they analyze is the available fund balance for the general fund. So your total fund balance, the $112,557,952, when you take out the non-spendable, the stabilization by state statute requirement to get to what the LGC calls the available fund balance, you had an increase in that from the prior year. And so that available fund balance this year was $84,537,553. So the LGC likes to see that increase in available fund balance unless you know that you're spending it for a specific reason. They want to see that upward increase. So you've done well with that. They also look at the percentage when you look at available fund balance compared to the general fund's expenditures for the year. So your available fund balance percentage was 44%. I added a note over to the side for you this year based on requests from last year so that you would know that the 2018 amount for your available was 38%, so you had another increase again this year in that percentage. And then what you like to look at is that unassigned percentage, because that's what's important when you take out all the other things that you've committed and that you've assigned for specific projects or whatever you may have coming up. So that percentage is 25% this year. Last year it was 21%. The general fund summary with your revenues and expenditures is on this slide. You will see that for 2019 you had an increase in your revenues and an increase in your expenditures. So we had total revenues ending at $208,311,547, and the expenditures ended at $194,369,062. When you break that out into the major groups of your revenues, you see that property taxes make up 61% of that revenue. Other taxes and license make up 21%. Federal and state grants is 7%, and then other being 11%. And I put a note up to the side for you as well, again, of what those percentages were in the prior year. So they're pretty comparable. There was a 1% change in two of the categories.
The sales tax is under other taxes and what?
Yes, so your other taxes and license do include that local option sales tax. The ad valorem taxes specifically increased this year about $4.1 million, so it ended at $124,920,089. The other taxes and license, which, as you mentioned, that does include your local option sales tax, it increased about $3.8 million, so it ended at $43,382,194. And then the restricted intergovernmental, your federal and state grants, those fluctuate from year to year based on what grants are out there. Some grants are multi-year, some are single-year. So this category is going to fluctuate from year to year based on that. So you did have an increase in the grants that you received this past year, and that ended at $14,311,359.
So would it be fair to say that as a percentage of annual growth that our sales tax revenues essentially are growing faster than our property tax revenues? Even though the property taxes are a larger piece of the pie, it looks like sales taxes and ad valorem taxes both added roughly the same amount of dollars. So proportionally, we're getting more bang for the buck now out of sales taxes, which just seems to be different from the past.
And I think several units in the state are seeing that trend from what I observed in the units that I audited this year. They did have that increase, which was very pleasant for everybody to see in their budget line.
I'll also tell you from past experiences, that one can drop like a rock.
Let's make hay while the sun is shining.
So looking at the expenditures in the general fund, you will see education being your largest piece of the pie there, 34%. You have human services at 15%, public safety 21%, other 14%, and then debt service 16%.
If I could add, a lot of people watching may say, gee, I thought half of our budget, y'all told us half goes to education. Most of that debt service is education related. Right. 34 plus 16, which is about 50.
Yes. It breaks out to the debt service piece is not including the or the education piece doesn't include your debt service piece that's education related.
Right.
So that is very important to note. Looking at education specifically and where those amounts ended up for 2019, education was $66,017,716. So that was an increase from 2018. And there's a note on this slide specifically to remind people that may view the slide here that doesn't include the debt service piece. Looking at debt service, you had an increase in it for 2019, so it ended at $30,042,669. And then human services, fairly comparable to the prior year and the expenditures. You did have an increase in your revenue, so therefore you're going to expect to see an increase in those expenditures for human services because those grants pretty much have certain specific items that they're paying for. So the increase in human services, about $500,000, and that ended at $29,508,793. Public safety had an increase this year as well, ending at $41,161,939. So about a $2.3 million increase there. That does tend to fluctuate from year to year based on what your capital outlay needs are, whatever resources you need to do with public safety. So that tends to fluctuate. Looking at your solid waste fund specifically, I'll point out some highlights here. The total net position ending at $49,551,753. And so the unrestricted net position, taking out what's invested in your capital assets there, the unrestricted is $26,664,135. So when you look at it, it's not noted on here, but comparison to last year, that operating income was a little bit lower, about $200,000. So it's pretty comparable to 2018. But your unrestricted net position did increase, so that was good. And then the EMS Special Services Fund, again, total net position ended at $1,883,763. And then your unrestricted net position was $1,659,169. The operating income for this fund did increase from the prior year. And the unrestricted net position also increased from 2018. You have any questions about this or any other comments?
Any questions or comments?
Wouldn't mind making a few. Notice that we were audited. Happens every year. How many times in these public comment periods when somebody says, I'd be interested to know what would happen if y'all ever got audited? We all get audited.
Every year.
We all get audited every year. Everybody who gets a state grant gets audited somehow. A federal grant. You have to. There's an accountant. There's accounting that takes place. Also, as Cassie said, it's a year-round process. So it's not like somebody comes in and we have to pull the wool over their eyes for 2 weeks while they go through the books. Mm-hmm. It's a year-round process. There's a high degree of integrity that goes with the financial reporting, not just for the county as a whole, but for the departments within the county. So anybody that says that wow, we ought to get audited, they have no idea what they're talking about, unfortunately. Another thing I want to mention is our fund balance is back up to 25%.
That's somebody calling to find out.
There you go.
They can spend some of that
somebody's
fund
calling
balance.
to suggest we'd probably find some money if we had an audit.
Yeah.
We don't appropriate big chunks of cash to fund balance typically. Our fund balance, for the most part, is made by individual department heads underspending their budgets And that goes back into the general fund, and it goes towards our fund balance. Excuse me for having a little bit of a cold. I remember when I first came on the board, we said that if a department head could make a photocopier last an extra year, and he put it in his budget this year, but he didn't buy it, he automatically could put it in the budget for the next year. So nobody felt compelled to spend it or lose it. That's been a good approach that we've taken. But make no mistake, it's well-run department heads operating their departments for less money than they were allocated. It's through their efforts and the efforts of all of our county employees to cut costs and to spend wisely that's enabled us to have this very, very healthy fund balance. Also to the Board of Commissioners for not turning around and just spending it. I would say that the ad valorem taxes that we collected went up by $4 million. No, that's not the only revenue source. But just to put it all in perspective, the schools for non-capital went up by $6 million. So anybody says we're not doing our part for education, the school systems, plural, received more additional money last year than the county received in property taxes last year. So while they may not have gotten all that they wanted, it's pretty evident that they got all that we had and then some. Public safety, which is a lot smaller piece of the pie, they got $2.3 additional million. There's a lot of components that go into public safety. But I would say that right there you've got over $8 million of additional spending that we put towards education and public safety. And I would say that's probably where the priorities of the taxpayers are. So when people look at these numbers, again, I think our budgets have reflected the priorities that the county taxpayers have, and I think the Board of Commissioners, their spending priorities have reflected that. But I will tell you, if for any reason, if we were to ever have a slowdown, I would say that those increases would be scaled back, just like we did before. I'm not saying that we're expecting that or hoping for it, but those are definitely dependent upon growth in revenue. Growth in expenditures happen after there's growth in revenues. Anyway, thank you for your findings. Thanks for the way that you explained it. It was very nice, very easy to understand, and I hope the public have confidence after hearing your words. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for allowing my firm to provide the audit services to Iredell County. We greatly appreciate the time that you put in making our jobs easier to come out here and complete our process. I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments?
I would just like to comment that, remember, we run in a 4-year cycle. And that I will echo what Commissioner Robertson said with sales tax revenue. It is sometimes here today, gone tomorrow. So we have to be very careful how we depend on that in our plans.
What, 07 or
08, September of 08.
Yeah. It was like, it was literally people for almost 3 months. It's like the only thing they spent money on was food.
And 9, 10, and 11 were tough years. So, but we don't anticipate the credit bubble burst of 2008 to revisit us anytime soon. None of the financial analysts on the talk box expect that anytime soon. So, but you have to be ever mindful of that, right, where the money comes from, and we have to lay away in the fat years to survive the lean years.
And that's being done.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Any other comments?
I just want to thank you for your work, and as per the board, for the General Government Task Force, and the board thank the staff and all departments for the efficient manners, the administration. You know, we do with a lot of things that well beyond their life expectancies to try to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. So sometimes the thank yous and attaboys go without notice. So on behalf of our board and for the taxpayers, we do appreciate our department heads, our employees for doing more with less, and we do work for the people. And as these gentlemen said, we're mindful of that, and I think your audit reflects the fact that we're spending the money as wisely as possible and with growing revenues for those down times. I think that is applaudable for our staff.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to thank Ms. Jones and the entire staff for all that you do. We know it's not a one-person game. You all work together. Ms. Cheek, thank you. And young lady back, as always, on these committees and social services, thank you for what y'all do. Thank you all for what you do. So they're not just doing one particular area. They serve on other committees. We do appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, just to wrap up very quickly, you know, this is just one part, but an essential and a very important part to our ability to be able to, when necessary, such as the anticipated bond or any time that we borrow funds, we're able to get those funds at an extremely competitive rate because of the bond rating agencies look at, you know, our fund balance. Have we got, you know, at least 18%? And it's this board's policy to, you know, not go below that 18%. And, you know, Vice Chairman Bowles mentioned a 4-year cycle. You know, when we have a revaluation, then that's a raise in terms of county revenues typically. But that is a one-time bump that is set for the next 4 years, except for additional taxable revenue. Otherwise, everybody's tax rate is basically going to stay the same. Well, we all know that costs do not take a 4-year holiday. They continually increase. So that's why it's important to be able to build up that fund balance and to the 25% level. Not only is part of that reflected by savings for capital improvement, which we have to do, as well as operations, but it reflects the fact that 3 years from now, we start going through, or 2 years from now, really, at this point, we start going through a little bit of nail biting when it comes to figuring out the budget for the next 2 years before the revaluation kicks in. So, you know, just like setting the fat cows and the skinny cows, you got to set aside during those first couple years of revenues dollars to take into account for cost increases when your revenues are not going to increase to the same level. So our ability, though, to borrow for those capital improvement projects when required, we've been able to get extremely competitive rates, and that's a reflection of not just the fiscal policy of the board and the fiscal policy execution by the departments, but it's also reflected by a solid audit, which is absolutely critical for having the gold standard for a bond rating or for any kind of credit rating, which we have the highest possible rating from one of the 3 credit reporting agencies and the next highest from 2 of the others. And there are some systemic things that keep us from having it across the top for all of them. One of them, you know, is having a major university in the county, and we don't have a major university. We do have a secret weapon with Mitchell College, but it doesn't qualify as a 4-year research university, which seems to be one of those things that gives other counties a bit of a leg up. But so systemically, they may have a little ace in the hole, but we have routinely the basics covered in a very complete and accurate way. So we thank you for your year-round work with all of our departments, because it's easy to make small course corrections as you discover opportunities for improvement, as opposed to somebody coming in once a year and just, like, say, for 2 weeks, pouring through books, and then you find stuff that if you'd made a small course correction 9 months ago, wouldn't be an issue. So thank you for being joined at the hip with us and making that happen.
Absolutely.
Okay. To conclude this, is there a motion to accept the audit?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we proudly accept the Iredell County, North Carolina Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2019, as presented tonight by Martin Starnes and Associates, CPAs and PA.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Halp. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. And a big thank you. Next, we have a public hearing to consider proposed text amendments to the Land Development Code. And Mr. Matthew Todd, from Director of our Planning Department, will share the ins and outs of this scintillating subject.
Good evening to the board. The text amendment we have before us tonight did get unanimous approval from the planning board. Essentially what we looked at doing is currently regulations in our land development code that deal with erosion and sediment control are split up throughout the code. At times it is difficult to find certain sections that we need and also to relay that information on to the end user. We've done this with another section of our code last year, so we decided to go the same route with this, and that was basically to consolidate it into a single appendix that could be handed out to those interested parties. At the same time as we did that consolidation and creating the Appendix H, we also looked at updating the code to reflect general statute changes that have occurred over the last couple of years based on the model ordinance that's available. Things that changed while a lot of organization changed, moving from one place in the ordinance to the other. But the issues that were highlighted, basically, and put in the code, we've been practicing them because they were already general statute requirements. But issues on first-time offenders and how they're notified, plan transfer requirements on what it takes to transfer a plan from one developer to the other. Includes clarifications on the exemptions from the code. Again, those are based on the general statute requirements. The one addition that we did add that is kind of unique for Iredell is we did ask that self-inspections occur on a more regular basis. Currently, they just are required after each phase of grading, and we asked or put in the code that they actually be required after each 1 inch of rainfall. This actually already matches what the state requires on their stormwater requirements, or on their construction stormwater requirements. And we feel that this will help address some of the concerns or some of the issues that we do see by having a more regular look from the developer at the sites and documentation of that. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
We've had an opportunity to review this in some detail on two previous occasions, I believe. It's gone back and forth between the planning board and this board based on some comments, but I will open the floor to any further comments from commissioners or questions of Mr. Todd.
No questions. I just wanted to again thank the Planning and Zoning Board and the work of you and your staff for putting in this work to make our ordinances better.
Okay, at this time, I will open the public hearing, and no one has signed up to be heard. I will inquire of anyone in the audience if you would like to be heard. Seeing and hearing none, I will close this public hearing and public comment. I'll get to you, David. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve Appendix H, the Iredell County Soil Erosion and Sediment Control Ordinance, along with associated zoning text amendments to the current land development code, making a finding that the approval is consistent with the adopted 2030 Horizon Plan and that said approval is reasonable and in the public interest and furthers the goals of the 2030 Horizon Plan because it aims to create compliance with the North Carolina General Statutes, the North Carolina Soil Erosion and Sediment Control Model Ordinance, and the requirements of the North Carolina Sedimentation and Pollution Control Act 1973.
Motion by Commissioner Robertson. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. And once again, we do thank the Planning Board and the staff for the hard work on this particular text amendment, which pulls together from a lot of different sources in the code, puts it in one location. There's nothing more frustrating than trying to figure out what you're required to do when it says, well, refer to subsection H of something else, and you go to that, and you're bouncing around in a code book and in different books, and you're putting this together in one location. I think will be helpful to the public as they seek to just simply be in compliance with all the regulations that are out there. Thank you. We now move on to item 8, administrative matters that are appropriate for our consent agenda. And with the exception of item 8.5, Ms. Jones, could you please summarize these for inclusion in a consent agenda motion?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Mallory. The first item is a request from Planning and Development on behalf of Brian Thompson for removal of the release of 75% of the value of an $8,125 cash bond on a recently completed stormwater control pond located at 1214 River Highway. There's a request from Planning and Development on behalf of Peter Kai for approval of the release of the remaining $25,000 cash bond on a stormwater control pond located at 1264 River Highway. A request from Planning and Development for approval of a resolution to formally support the 2020 census. A request from Emergency Management for approval of Budget Amendment Number 11 in order to accept a Homeland Security Grant Program award in the amount of $18,000. And I will just say that this is a regional grant for an all-terrain vehicle for transport of patients. A request from Tax Administration for approval of October refunds and releases. A request from Administration for approval of amendments to the Board of Commissioners Rules and Procedures with 2 adjustments to that. And then a request from the Clerk to the Board for approval of the minutes from the meeting on November the 5th, 2019.
Is there any further discussion on any of these items? Is there a motion to approve those items on the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the pre-agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Norman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item 8.5 was not included in the consent agenda. It is a request from the Finance Department to provide an introduction of the 2020 referendum bond orders, authorize issuance of a sworn statement of debt and statement of estimated interest, and to consider to call for a public hearing on December 3rd, 2019 on said orders. And Deb Cheek is already at the podium, so if you will please tee this up for everybody.
Thank you. As the commissioners have already started to take action on a bond referendum for March of 2020, this is the next step in the process where you issue the bond order. This will need to be done in 2 steps. The first order issued for the school system and the second order issued for Mitchell Community College. The chairman has the orders to be read for the school system.
Okay, there are 4 action items that we have before us, and the first action item will be a motion to approve this order. That, pursuant to the Local Government Bond Act as amended, the County of Iredell, North Carolina, is hereby authorized to contract a debt in addition to any and all other debt which said county may now or hereafter have a power or authority to contract, and in evidence thereof to issue school bonds in an aggregate principal amount not exceeding $115,500,000 for the purpose of providing funds together with any other available funds, for acquiring, constructing, and equipping school buildings and other school facilities in said county, including, without limitation, A, the construction of a new high school and the acquisition of related land, rights-of-way, and equipment for the Iredell Statesville Schools Board of Education, and B, the construction of a new middle school and the acquisition of related land, rights-of-way, and equipment for the Mooresville Graded School District. Is there a motion to accept that order and approve that?
So moved.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Haupt. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. It is therefore ordered by the Board of Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, I think on the motion one, I apologize, I need to use the specific wording. Make a motion that we approve the issuance of a bond order authorizing $115,500,000 in school bonds.
All right, motion as amended, we'll say, by Commissioner Haupt. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. And if you'll notice, motion two has specific language as well. Everyone wants to take that up. Okay, action item 2 is language that, pursuant to the Local Government Bond Act as amended, the County of Iredell, North Carolina, is hereby authorized to contract a debt in addition to any and all other debt which said county may now or hereafter have the power or authority to contract, and in evidence thereof to issue community college bonds in an aggregate principal amount not exceeding $10,500,000 for the purpose of providing funds, together with any other available funds, for acquiring, constructing, renovating, expanding, improving, and equipping various community college facilities for Mitchell Community College. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the issuance of a bond order authorizing $10,500,000 in community college bonds.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Haupt. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Action item 3, Ms. Cheek will introduce the sworn statement of debt and statement of estimated interest.
Thank you. As Finance Director, I'm required to certify our sworn statement of debt, and I'll just run through that pretty quickly. This is our bonded debt. Currently, our outstanding bonded debt is $132,715,000. We are proposing bonds of $126 million. We have bonds that have been authorized but unissued of $8.1 million, giving us a total of $266,845,000 in principal debt. Also, in 2015, we issued qualified school construction bonds, and that has a payment at the end of the 20 years of $12,700,000. We are making escrow payments into a fund so that at the end of that time we'll have that money set aside. We have set aside at this time $1,593,000,000 for that payment, making our gross net debt $265,251,546. We also run a calculation where we take our assessed value, which is $23.5 billion. We put our gross debt against that number, and our debt margin is 1.13%. And I would just like to inform the board that legally, the legal debt margin is up to 8%. So we are well below the percentage allowed. We also, and I'm not sure that this was true when we issued the bonds in 2014, but a new requirement has come to light where the counties are required to estimate interest that will be paid on the bonds. I estimate that the interest on the principal of $126 million over the term of those bonds, interest of $65,646,000 will be paid, and we have projected that interest at a rate of 5%, which is quite conservative. So those items will be filed after this meeting tonight with the clerk to the board.
Okay, is there any questions for Ms. Cheek? Okay, is there a motion to acknowledge that the sworn statement of debt and statement of estimated interest has been filed with the clerk.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Vice Chairman Bowles. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Our action item 4 is to call for a public hearing on December 3rd and direct the publication of the notice of that public hearing. I think that speaks for itself.
Yes,
is there
sir.
a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Norman. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. And a public hearing is called for December 3rd, and we do direct publication of the notice of that public hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sheik. Appreciate it. Now we move on to item 9, announcement of vacancies occurring on boards and commissions. And I'll let our county manager review all those that are queued up.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Mallory. Just a reminder that we've moved to a 6-month cycle, so this is part, it's a rather large or healthy list of announcements, but this is on our 6-month cycle. So Board of Equalization and Review, there are 6 appointments to announce. The Board of Health, there's 7 appointments. Charlotte Regional Partnership, 1 appointment. Personal Advisory Committee, 3 appointments. Recreation Advisory Board, 4 appointments. Transportation Advisory Board, 7 appointments. And Zoning Board of Adjustment, 4 appointments.
Okay, I would note that anyone can apply for any of these positions on the county website. There's a form to fill out an application. I would also note that if individuals that are serving on these boards or commissions would like to be considered to be reappointed, then that will get a priority examination from this board. That needs to be in compliance with the individual boards or commissions rules relative to term limits. And we would encourage everyone to take a look at what's available. We depend on people volunteering to serve on these commissions and boards. They do very important work, and we rely on their input in terms of making decisions that affect people's pocketbooks and what they can do with their property and a whole array of issues. So please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact staff, and they will provide whatever information you need. Item 10, appointments to boards and commissions. We do have 2 boards, the Central Carolina Economic Development District Board of Directors. We have 2 appointments. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Jim Bosser and Beth Jones.
Okay. Jen Bosser and Beth Jones have been nominated. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Ms. Jones. You get to wear another hat. Okay, and finally, we have 1 appointment for the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Teresa Lazenby.
Teresa Lazenby's been nominated by Commissioner Norman. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. And we thank all of these ladies for their willingness to serve. I don't believe in item 9 that we have any unfinished business that was heretofore identified. So, move on to item 12, which is a public comment period. This occurs once a month on the second meeting of the month. And we have 1 person that has signed up, Mr. David Rayner, Jr.
Mr. Chairman, I think he left. His mother, Judy, passed this information out for our information.
Okay. If you could read that into the record, since he's not able to be here, that would be
okay. Be glad to. My name is David Taylor, Jr. I live at 1917 Cunningham Drive, Statesville, North Carolina. I want to ask you all to set up a committee that reports to the board called Disability Committee, It will work on issues that are important to persons with disability and report to the board. All issues that are about persons with disability, ADA issues, safety crossing streets, parking, sidewalk and curb cuts, voting done right for persons with disability, safety vest for day and night to cross streets, please set one up. You do not have a point person that is ADA coordinator to oversee ADA issues or concerns. Most places have one for a county and then one per division, like transportation, building, HR, and so on. You have only HR/ADA person. There is training in Raleigh December 17th that is free on ADA. You must have a self-advocate do it with you and will be glad to be Iredell County self-advocate. I have been through National ADA coordinator training. I need to know by Thursday if you would like to do this training. It is free. Next, I would like to work with the Board of Elections to get disability voting and parking done right. The primary is March 2020. I am the SABE Go Voter project for the National Disability Rights, and I have the survey for the last president election with the things that were done wrong so we could correct those mistakes now, before the primary. I would like to share with the Board of Elections the results in this survey. I would like to train them on disability voting and how to work with persons with disability and support staff and disability etiquette. Please partner with me to get this done and inspections of voting precincts and locations. Thank you. David Taylor. And Mr. Chairman, I would like to just say that David and his mother Judy have over the years identified to our Board of Elections director and staff issues that periodically come to light at voting locations, and our Board of Elections have addressed these issues and corrected all of these issues over each election since 2014. And I wanted to thank Judy and David on behalf of this board and our Board of Elections Director, Becky. You know, she appreciates people letting her know when there are issues or concerns at voting locations, and she has been very diligent to address these situations so everyone can safely vote. And David was the gentleman that was here earlier in the wheelchair. And so I just want to applaud him, because there's a lot of people that don't take the time to go vote, and people like David, he is an advocate to get everyone out to vote, and we want to applaud him for making us aware, and our Board of Elections Director and staff, when there are issues, and they have corrected every issue that David and Judy has brought to our attention. So Becky's here, and I wanted to just tell everyone David had to leave. You know, he can't stay somewhere too long, but we do appreciate him making us aware of things that makes it easier and more efficient for people with disabilities to vote. And I want to applaud our Board of Elections Director and our Supervisor Joe and others over the years that have addressed these things, and his advocacy for these things are to be applauded. So I just wanted to say thank you and let him know that we do hear him, and that our Board of Elections takes pride in the fact that they do make it better possible and accessible for everyone to vote.
Well, I know David is volunteers in the community. He's a member of the Kiwani Club, active in supporting the Iredell County Fair. And he certainly is aware of and taking the time to become educated on not only the law, the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law to try to increase accessibility. And in point of fact, I think we're seeing more demand for accommodations, because as we have an aging population, a large portion of folks are having mobility issues, and so I think sometimes the one or two parking spots that are set aside by regulation, particularly when you look at sporting events or recreation, they may not be adequate. Same thing for voting, where you have large numbers of folks coming, and we're using facilities that are not designed by or owned by the county, that are churches and that have volunteered to provide facilities so that we can have precinct voting throughout the county. But not all of those locations perhaps have a large number of ADA compliant type of facilities. I think I would ask the staff to just evaluate whether or not having sort of an ADA ombudsman that can sort of get information out to all the staff through your office about ways to be not just legally compliant, but to comply with the spirit of maximizing accessibility to functions and events and government services. And ever how that's best accomplished, I believe, if you would please coordinate that with the General Governmental Task Force, then we can see how we can sort of bake that into everything we do. I know every department has that, there's some regulatory requirements, but we need to see whether those go far enough. Okay. So thank you. I do want to recognize Representative McNeely, who is with us this evening in the back. I didn't, if the light wasn't shining on you, I wouldn't have noticed.
Which is a change.
Yes, usually we wouldn't have required the light.
Mr. Chairman, can I make one comment there? I'd like to congratulate Representative McNeely for his choice of colorful socks to have this evening. So I guess if you can see down under the chairs, there would be plenty of glow.
Festive for the season.
Well, he's.
It's good to see the government that works together and how that is. I have to see
Thank you, Representative.
For, by, and of the people.
Well, we appreciate the service that you provided on this board and on the planning board, and continue to provide in a big way in Raleigh. And we hope that you're able to come home for good until the next session, and finally dispose of a budget, I suspect in January, unless lightning strikes. So, okay. We'll move on. There's no new business I'm aware of. The county manager's report.
Just two quick topics. One, to again thank the board for their full day and all their time at the retreat on Friday. It was a good retreat. We appreciate your guidance and direction. And that's really important for staff to have that time with you. And I know sometimes it's difficult to carve out a full day. And when I say full day, I mean we went from 8 till after 5 and worked right through lunch. But it's really good for us to get that direction from the board and to get that guidance and make sure that we're still on the right track and accomplishing the mission and vision and goals of the board on behalf of the county as a whole. So thank you for your time. Thank you for a very successful retreat. And we are now gearing up as of today. Some of you got emails for setting up task force meetings, gearing up for topics that's going to go before you for the winter retreat, which will be in February. So, but thank you for all your time and your tireless efforts. And I know there's discussion about the Board of Commissioners and whether you're full-time or part-time and things of that nature, but the hours that you give to Iredell County is astounding. And you really don't know it until you sit in these seats. You really don't realize it, and the time that you take away from your families and your full-time jobs to be able to conduct the people's business. And as an individual that works with you all and sincerely appreciates your dedication and your service to this county, I'd like to say thank you for that, sincerely. One other thing, just a reminder, and let everyone know that county offices will be closed next Thursday, the 28th, and Friday, the 29th, in observance of the Thanksgiving holiday.
Well, I for one, can attest, I think I can speak for everyone, would say that we appreciate the staff and your presentations. They were effective, they were to the point, they were illuminating, and we were able to get a lot of work done, ventilating a lot of very difficult, complex issues. And so we just appreciate the fact that we felt like, I'm sure that all of our time was well spent. I know that day just flew by, and that's because, you know, you're fully engaged. And there have been meetings I've been in which crawled, you know, and it just didn't. So thank you, and thank you for the staff's great efforts.
Along those lines, one of my favorite quotes is H.L. Mencken said, "For every complex problem, there's a solution that is simple, easy, and wrong." So you're right. I mean, the things that we struggle because very few times are there solutions without a downside. There's always an upside, always a downside. Finding that balance.
We need to write that quote down. Make sure you got that one for me.
That's a good one. That will be repeated.
Okay. Anything further to come before the County Commission? All hearts free? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Want y'all to say anything?